Welcome friends to another r/I don't work here lady video. If you don't work here, prove it by hitting the like and subscribe buttons down below. Our first story of the day is by OneGrape9883, a lady at the grocery store. I was at the grocery store and had a shopping cart full of returnable bottles. I stopped to put out my cigarette when a woman yells at me, "Hey, don't do that, you don't know who was smoking that." I told her it was my cigarette and I was just putting it out. They say, "It's okay, here, take this and buy yourself some food." And only food, you hear me? You need it, honey. And they handed me a $10 bill. Then it dawned on me why she thought that I was homeless. I'm on vacation. My clothes were dirty from cleaning the barbecue grill and I was a bit of a mess. I was pushing a shopping cart full of refundable bottles. I have a tall plastic garbage can I use for bottles and cans. I tried telling her I didn't need it, but she wouldn't listen to me. I returned the bottles and took the receipt from the machine. I picked up some soda and snacks. The woman yelled at me and told me that's not what she meant by buying for myself. Once again, I tried to explain, but she wanted nothing to do with it. She just wouldn't listen. We both head for the checkout and I made sure I was behind her. Her shopping cart was filled to the top. The cashier began to ring her groceries up, and before she could pay, I handed the cashier my credit card and told her I was paying for it. The woman just stared at me, as her bill was over $100. When it was my turn to cash out, I handed the register my slip from the refundable bottles and paid for the rest with my credit card. And she just stood there looking at me. I smiled and said, "Ma'am, I tried to tell you I don't need your money. I truly appreciate your caring, concern, and kindness. It's not something you see nowadays." I explained why I looked so scruffy. The woman turned beet red and tried apologizing for thinking I was homeless. I told her there's no need to be apologizing for her kindness. I reached into my wallet and gave her my business card with the name and address of my restaurant and told her, "Thank you, just show this card anytime and your meals are free," and left. Since then I had seen her. I walked to her table and said hello. She didn't recognize me at first in my dress shirt, tie, and dress pants, and I was clean shaven with my hair combed. When she comes in, I always sit with her and talk. She's tried paying for her meals, but the staff knows her and knows not to give her a receipt. She's a very sweet woman and a person we need more of, especially in these days. She's a gem and very precious. I'm sorry if this sounds like I'm tooting my own horn. I'm not trying to. I feel like I needed to tell the whole story. If you were in OP's shoes and they confused you for a homeless person, would you be more upset that they confused you for being homeless, or more appreciative that a person like that was so willing to take time and money out of their day to help them out? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Certified A Whole 80. Karen assaults police officer all over a 12-pack of water bottles. For some context, I'm a police officer. In my country, our officers don't really have the same kit that you see in the TV shows. Think a light stab-proof vest, a pistol, and some kind of taser things. I'm part of a specialty unit that's basically a quick response team for situations that could turn deadly or just need specialty officers. We have the same kit as the stereotypical American officer: bulletproof vest, AR, less than lethal weapons, and that sort of jazz. It does vary from officer to officer. So it's safe to assume that I stand out quite a bit. My country also has very strict gun laws, so it's not common to see people walking down the street with a concealed carry or anything like that. And from here on out, I'm going to use American terminology just to make it easier for everyone to understand. Now on to the story. Myself and a few other officers were dispatched to a call involving a male having a PTSD episode and was threatening to shoot at anyone that came near his house. We ended up staying there for a good few hours trying to help the man calm down and get him the help he needed, which thankfully we managed to do and no one was harmed. So obviously after I went to that call, I decided to stop at the shops and get something to have as a quick meal to get some energy and calories in me. As I was going down the aisles, I noticed an elderly couple struggling to pick up some 12 packs of bottled water, so I helped them load their bottles onto the trolley. Perfectly harmless, right? What could go wrong? That's when a wild Karen appears. Karen says, "Excuse me." Me, thinking she has a question about something involving policing, says, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "I need you to carry these to my car." She was pointing to the packs of water. I say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but as you can clearly see, I'm a police officer. I can't be carrying things around for you because I need to be ready to drop everything in a moment's notice. I'm more than happy to help you load them into your cart and help you find an employee, but unfortunately at the moment, that's the best I can do for you." Karen scoffs and says, "You aren't a police officer, you're just some wannabe airsofter." I just want to reference here, I'm in full kit, just without my rifle, and it's very illegal to even just have the plate carrier, never mind the authentic police badges. I say no, I'm very much a real police officer, I'm part of specialty unit. That's why I don't wear the uniform you normally see officers wearing. If you wish, I can provide you with my ID and number. Karen says, it's illegal to pretend to be a cop, I'm calling the police and you're gonna get arrested. She proceeds to call the non-emergency number and tells the dispatcher about me. I say, Karen, you're completely in your right to report me and verify I actually am one, but in the meantime, I'm going to continue shopping. Call for a police impersonator that is armed with a gun comes over the radio, and I tell dispatch it's me, but to still send regular patrol officers over. Karen says, you aren't going anywhere, jerk, and proceeds to kick the back of my knee, making my leg buckle and me fall over. I say, that's it, Karen, you're under arrest for assaulting a law enforcement officer. Karen proceeds to kick and scream and all that whilst I handcuff her and take her out of the store, and a few employees are following, trying to stop a crowd from forming. Just as I pulled Karen out of the store to remove her from the public, 2 patrol cars pull up. One was a supervisor. They ask me why she's in cuffs, so I explain the story, and the supervisor questioned Karen about what happened, and she ended up saying I cussed her out and attacked her, so she kicked my knee to get away from me. Supervisor obviously very quickly took my sidearm and other weapons and put me into the back of his car, standard procedure just to cover the department's butt, and took Karen out of her cuffs. The supervisor apologized profusely and asked if she wanted to push charges. She obviously very happily replied with a yes. So supervisor, Karen, she was very hesitant and insisted that she must be going and that they can just email her. Store manager and another officer all went into the security room to watch the CCTV footage. The footage showed us talking, her pulling the phone out, me walking away, and then her kicking my leg. Karen was instantly handcuffed and taken back to the station to do all the booking and that fun stuff. Most of what I know from this point is from talking to other officers, as I was immediately placed on unpaid suspension because I was being investigated for assault. It turns out Karen had a warrant for theft, and once the officers found out, she kicked them a few times and was eventually placed in a cell. On the day of the court hearing, she was found guilty of assault on a law enforcement officer 3 times, making a false police report 1 time, and wasting police resources. Her theft charges were dropped as a plea deal. She got sentenced 1 year jail time and was forced to take anger management classes. Once I was cleared of any wrongdoing, I sued her for lost wages, about 6 months of suspension, and defamation of character because she ended up getting my face published on basically every bit of local news during that whole investigation, and I was labeled a power-hungry, abusive police officer. That ain't a fun reputation to have. So in the end of it, because Karen was too lazy to load a 12-pack of water into her own car, she got sent to jail for 1 year, lost her job, lost her boyfriend, basically only has visitation rights for her children, father used the assault case to get custody of them, and lost a good chunk of change. I think what sucks in this situation is you can kind of see that sensationalization in the news. As soon as Karen gets the story out, it's eaten alive because plenty of news outlets would love the reaction, the clicks that generate from police officer assaults woman. There's no actual research and no consideration for both sides of the story. It just ruins this guy's reputation amongst casual people who are only ever going to see that headline and a picture of his face and never get clarified later on that, hey, this guy didn't actually assault anybody at all. So ignore the big bold font where we said he did earlier. Our next story is by Fearsome Mumbler, My Introduction to the US Navy. When me and my mate were traveling around Australia in our early 20s, both of us are Northern English with unusual accents, we were trying to woo a couple of delightful ladies, limited success, that were part of the crew of a US Navy aircraft carrier who were on shore leave whilst visiting Sydney. They were loading and offloading crew at the Darling Harbour area of Sydney. There's lots of bars there, via tenders. Now, there was hundreds of crew milling about as they had a curfew to get back on board, so they were all gathering waiting for the next tender. At this point, the Navy Police, I've been told they're called Shore Patrol, started to corral all these young men and women and started to process them onto the tenders. This is when we realized we had accidentally been herded into the pack. So me and my mate decided to make our farewells and disappear into the night for more dirty deeds elsewhere. We managed to get about 10 paces from the herd when we were manhandled to the floor by a group of burly Navy Shore Patrol who started aggressively demanding we hand over our ID and suggesting we'd really been stupid to blatantly disobey the curfew order, going ashore without ID and being too drunk to speak properly. We weren't, we just had weird Northern English accents. Well, we were both English, hadn't done a single hour in any military service, and very much not part of the crew of an American aircraft carrier. We were cuffed with zip ties and led to a waiting tender when the officer in charge quickly realized that we were just a pair of drunk Brits looking for some tush in the wrong place at the wrong time, and promptly released us. And that is my story of how I was captured by the US Navy. Man, they were ready to lock you up and put you on that ship. You were about to get forced into the service. I can only imagine OP and their friend scared out of their minds while being arrested for abandoning a US Navy ship and they're just a couple Brits. Our next story is by Clusion0J. I don't work here, as of right now. A few years ago, I worked for a wonderful Midwest grocery store chain. Hint, we wore blue. I had just graduated college and put my 2 weeks in because I landed my first big boy job with my shiny new degree. I was a front-end supervisor, less glorious than it sounds, and also had to run the money services counter. There we sold lottery tickets, handled returns, and other things. This story happened, I kid you not, on my last day. My shift ended that night at 9 p.m. It was about 8:50 p.m. at the time this took place. Piece of info, we could leave about 7 minutes early because the time clock rounded up to the nearest 15 minutes. So if you clocked out at 8:53, it would round it to 9 o'clock. So like I said, it's about 8:50. I literally have 3 minutes until I'm gone forever. The service desk closes at 9. Since I was the only person with access to it working that night, I had already closed it and was about to head out when middle-aged grumpy man came in and we had this exchange. He says, "I need a lottery ticket." I say, "Sorry sir, the service desk is closed." They say, "It's not 9 p.m. yet." I say, "Again, I'm sorry, we didn't have a line, so we went ahead and closed it to assist customers at the checkout lanes." He says, "You either get me a lottery ticket or I'm not buying these groceries and you can put them away." This man had like $400 worth of stuff in his cart. At this point, I'm done and I don't care anymore. I say, "Sir, actually, I don't work here." Middle-aged grumpy man confused says, "Yes you do. I see you all the time. Now get me a freaking ticket." I say, "Today's the final day of my 2 weeks notice, and my shift is over, right now." 8:53, "So no, I don't work here. So tonight you don't get poop, and I'm not putting poop away. Have a horrible night." At this point, the look on his face was priceless as I simply walked to the time clock, punched out, and went home. Even though he was grumpy and probably could have acted nicer, I kind of understand his plight. If something says they're supposed to be open till a certain time, you get there 10 minutes early and they say, "Nope, sorry, we're closed. Have a horrible night." I'd be kind of feeling some type of way too. Now, would I flip out at somebody? No. Would I be grumpy? I mean, probably. I feel like it's okay to be a little grumpy in that situation, as long as it's not personal to the worker. And our final story of the day is by I Am Saga City. I don't work here, lady. Uno reverse card. I do work here. About 30 years ago, a group of friends and I went to an INXS concert. Lenny Kravitz opened. I was the designated mule for the show. I was wearing cowboy boots at the time and put all the contraband inside the top of the boots and some down my pants. Security was patting everyone down, and we actually watched as people were denied entry because security found their stash on them. We were already pretty lit at the time, so with high confidence, we waited in line to go through security. Quick side note, one of the group was a criminal type, I'll call him Johnny. He was in and out of juvenile detention and jail all his life. He was actually one of the nicest guys I knew and loyal to a fault with our group. The reason for the side note, he always knew a way, whatever the situation, that the rest of us would never think about. He was a problem solver. Johnny saw what was happening at the checkpoint and grabbed me and told me to stay as close as I can behind him and just do what he says. When we got to security, Johnny was patted down, and as soon as he was cleared, he whipped around, grabbed me by the shoulders, moved me to the side right beside the security that patted him down, and started patting me down, as if he was security. I had no idea what was going on, as he didn't tell me his plan. I just followed his lead. He finished patting me down and pushed me through the turnstile. No one was the wiser. Needless to say, we all had a great time. Thanks, Johnny. In my book, if it's crazy but it works, it's super smart. In tough situations or critical situations, you always want to blend in, and I guess there's no better way to blend in than appear as if you're security. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.